Hey everyone, we've come to the final part of elevated entities. So we've had an exciting past few weekends, and you guys have gone through 3 different instructors, 3 different workshops the first 3 weekends, and then moved to the interoperability session. And then finally, you got a chance to work with your instructors and develop this project that we're going to see today. So I think it was super exciting for all of us to be a part of this and to see your projects grow. And the people who are sticking around here had the maximum amount of enthusiasm and determination because they really pushed it, and they've really been through the whole process. And we're really super happy to see everything that's going to be presented today. And about the format for today, guys, each project gets 2 to 3 minutes to showcase your boards and present your work. And it will be reviewed by your instructors. And we also have a special guest critic, Taka van Leeuwenhall from the United States, who's going to join us, and who's here already, and he'll be joining us and give his amazing feedback as well. And a word to the instructors and Taka. The participants, as you may have known, have focused more on the technical aspects, and the whole workshop was geared towards producing technically intriguing outcomes. So we kind of want to hint you that you can go a bit relaxed on the whole your critique, and but then you can give some nice pointers to them and some directions where they can develop the project into much more fleshed out thing in the future. So a lot of them have approached it from very different directions, and there were 3 different topologies the project was approached from, and each one added their own interesting value and insight. All the projects have been developed by one person, except for one project where Sid and Prashant work together. But yeah, that's in general the case. So we have here our instructors, Nate, Andreas, and Mümün, and we have Taka. So let me briefly introduce Taka because he's the new person here for us, and I can get to know him a little bit more. So just a second. Oops. Yeah. Taka van Leeuwenhall is a creator, designer, and educator based in LA. He attended the SciArc, where he received a Bachelor of Architecture and a Master of Science in Architecture Technologies, both graduating with distinction. His project, Deep Plan, received the Hinsing Fung and Craig Hodgett's postgraduate thesis prize. Van Leeuwenhall has been a teaching assistant for SciArc with faculty such as Dwayne Euler, Alex Maymind, Jake Matayu, and has assisted with Design Immersion Days program with Angelica Lorenzi and Mira Henry. He has worked and aided with installations for many architects and designers, including Euler Wu Collaborative, House of ZKA, Mark Foster Gates, Pinagu, Libiskin, and Neil Denari. Tucker's work is concerned with shifting paradigms of culture that architecture is uniquely qualified to confront. Their work looks to examine new pedagogical models and architectural manifestations that emerge from new subjectivities and identity politics. The waning politics of globalization, the fallout of Anthropocene, and techniques and aesthetics unique to machine learning. And currently, Taka is an architectural designer and educator who works as a lecturer at AUD, UCLA right now. With that being said, let's get started with the final presentation of elevated entities, guys. And we have with us the first presentation from Benso Tale. All yours, Benso.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We do, but multiple times.
I think it's better now.
All good.
Just a second. Can I share my screen, please?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
It is disabled. I think you have to allow me to do it.
You must be able to do it now.
Okay, perfect. So this is my board. I mainly worked with Mümün on this project, but I used my learning from the Andreas and Nathaniel and all the course knowledge. And here we wanted to focus on a post-disaster scenario where the land is replacing with the water. And we wanted to create some underwater cities, which is again growing in a vertical way, because in our story scenario, the overwater level is completely habitat and we don't have any more urban space to grow. That's why we thought that, okay, the underwater can allow us to create another urban scenario. And that's why on Houdini, we made kind of maybe gigantic growth clusters and wanted to point out this overpopulation and inhabitants. And first we want to show about our habitat growth diagram in its different phases. Because it was easy for us to model it and express it with Houdini with all the levels and the interior, exterior solutions and so on. And this is the elevation of our building. And this is just a transportation hub in the whole urban scenario where around that we thought that we can create urban base and locate this kind of a building as a transportation hub and create a transportation node with it. And the other clusters in that post-disaster futuristic scenario can be added to this main transportation hub. And this is the underwater clusters, and they're able to explode because they're made from some kind of elastic melting material and transform into some seapods for the transportation. Here we use some skills in Houdini, and here you can see the whole cluster underwater, and it is capable of just dividing in some pieces as we showed with different color codings. And this is the transformation from one cluster to several seapods. And after this explosion, they're able to just move freely underwater and connect with other different pods. So it can be a habitat for maybe one person or more than one person. Multiple people can come here and socialize, create a living environment and transport in this pods. And here we wanted to show the difference between these overground clusters and the underwater cluster. So as you see here, we have the sharp edges and a different type of units overground, but when we go to underwater, we still have the stairs and the connection circulation points, but the cluster is changing its form and it is habiting to underwater conditions. And here we wanted to show a section view to give a better idea about what's happening in this environment. These black and white areas were pointing out the overground habitat. And when we go underwater, we again see the different cluster organizations allowing different life scenarios. And when we go back to our main render, we can see the difference that we summarize in the whole story. Yeah, and in the coming scenarios, I think if we have more time, we were thinking about maybe showing this difference better in ZBrush and Cinema 4D and making more and more clusters and connecting them to transportation hub. That's it.
Thank you, Benso. The instructors can start or Taka can start, whichever way you prefer, guys. Yeah, maybe Taka can get started.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in really quick. Given that I'm definitely the stranger to this entire studio, and this is the first time I'm seeing the work, I can probably give you a pretty honest opinion on it. I think there's a lot of really successful approaches, I think, to this project. And I think one of the great things that you're getting is a very amazingly discrete object. And by that, I mean an object that has a lot of very intricate and complex individual parts that nonetheless seem to be able to assemble into a very cohesive form that's intelligible, which I think is super successful. I think as you move forward, and as you're saying, if you want to move it into Cinema 4D or other softwares, I think what you could start considering is you develop this through a technical algorithm, essentially, a node-based algorithm for you to generate these forms. And now I think you could probably consider what it would be like for this object to be in the world. And if it's half underwater and half above ground, perhaps the parts that are underwater aren't necessarily human habitats, but fish habitats. And those sorts of like conceptual ideas could start feeding into how you texture map this, say in Cinema 4D, where the form underneath the water maybe starts getting a different type of material on it because different types of coral start latching onto them. And so you get these really cool underwater forms that in a weird way, I haven't really thought about this before, but coral reefs act in a very interestingly discrete way, similarly to how the discrete movement architecture talks about how they try to work on projects. And so that could just be a really interesting semblance that in certain softwares isn't necessarily that difficult to simulate, and could be a fun way for you to approach this in a technical apparatus in a similar way to how you have done. One thing I would say is there's so many really beautiful views of this project. And I think right now, and maybe it's just because of the limitation of this one slide, but I would try, especially if you're using Cinema 4D, to get into the details and get like really beautiful close-ups of what's happening, because the elevations that I see down on the lower right-hand side are really stunning and beautiful. And I think if you can start getting into those details, you viewed it at a very large scale because you're working essentially at the object scale in Houdini. I think it would be really great for you to be able to get into some specific moments and develop those a little bit more, whether or not it's through Houdini and maybe just adding some more level of finesse or detail to those specific moments, or maybe it's something that you do in Cinema 4D and you learn how to use modifiers or some of the other unique features in Cinema 4D. But overall, amazing work. I encourage you to bring this into another software and explore how you could give it a different point of view. And I think what would be also helpful is whatever you've learned from Houdini, whatever unique skills or different approach towards designing that you've never considered before, figure out how to use that in other software as well, meaning try to chase after that feeling of not necessarily knowing where this project will end up, but just being happy with the experimenting and letting it sort of filter through different softwares. And I mean, this project will just continue to get better. So yeah, great work.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Can I just bridge from what Tucker said? Like,
go for it.
I really like that you put also like the effort of like differentiating like the stuff which is like above water and underwater. And I think it would go a long way though with this project if you would like try and push that a little more, because for me personally, I think it's still very similar, like from the above water and underwater. I mean, the difference is definitely there, and it's a step in the right direction in my opinion. But I think that could be, I mean, that would be in my eyes, like would push it a lot more if you'd make the effort, like even if it's just like visually, you know, by rendering, if you'd add like some water or like fishes and stuff, or you know, if you have a close-up rendering, like an actual underwater rendering, that would really push like the whole story and narrative of your thing of being like underwater and I mean, semi underwater and above sea level. And I think even it could be like something as simple as just having like a rendering of like underwater with caustics and stuff. But all in all, I really think it's a cool project. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, actually, we had many ideas. I had many ideas when I started it, like the showing these parts maybe like with covered with more organic different elements that we model in Cinema 4D or ZBrush and some different parts underwater to highlight it. But it took too much to solve the things about Houdini, and it was a bit complex
Sure,
for
yeah.
me.
I can imagine that. But I mean, also like I mean, it's like what like Tucker was saying, like to have like maybe like a habitat for like fishes underneath, like just to see that difference of how the spaces would be used by humans and then fish, or maybe it's shared, you know, you'd have like, you could have people still using the underwater, but it's kind of like shared. I think there's a ton of super interesting concepts which like come out of this project. So I mean, yeah, it's really cool, like the whole idea of it as well.
Sure, thank you for this.
Yeah, maybe I jump in now. Great project, congratulations. I also see a lot of potential to like develop it further with Cinema 4D, and maybe really pay attention to the interactions, to the movements of the pods, like thinking of the infrastructure that develops around it. Yeah, so I think in that case, there's a lot of potential to think about the hub.
Lastly, if I also may add some stuff, I know the project better than almost anyone, so I'm not gonna talk that much, but I think everything has been said, and I see also a lot of potential that this project can go much further than it is now, but still the work that has been done until now is also really nice. What you can also consider is also how the function of the spaces kind of gives you outputs of design. Like, for example, when people use it underwater, how should I say, the spaces should be somehow closed on some areas, how you can deal with that and all this kind of stuff. And also the differentiation between underwater and not in underwater can also be enhanced much further with some more additions. But I think in 1 week, you really put a lot of work into this project, and really the outcome has been great. So congratulations, Benso.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear that. And yeah, I will be developing even after this course.
Great. Thank you so much for the input, guys. And thank you so much for the presentation, Benso. I guess we move to this next presentation. It's by Salman.
Yeah, hi everyone. Should I share the screen?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So yeah, presenting the Squid Tower. It's basically a transportation hub. Can you all see the screen? Or
all good. Please proceed.
Yeah, sure. So it's basically a transportation hub on planet Earth, and it's inspired from the squid. So here is how the story goes. Here is 2433 location planet Earth, and it has been 5 years since humans have started revisiting the Earth in a hope of making it habitable again. So 500 years ago, humans abandoned Earth because of hazardous environment conditions, lack of resources, rising sea levels, saturated soil, black sky, and millions of other reasons. It was almost impossible for human species to survive that dystopian environment. So they left, but they also left behind other living organisms. Animals died, plants died, birds fell to death, but sea creatures survived. In fact, they adapted to the environment so well that they grew incredibly strong, big, and powerful. Earth turned into a huge ocean with deadly huge sea creatures. Things started changing. Many catastrophes came and went, but they survived. One of the most powerful species that grew stronger with every catastrophe was squids. When humans first arrived after ages, they found old structures covered in slime-like substance with moving tentacles around it, as if squids were showcasing their control over it. They called it squid towers. This project is a representation of the transportation hubs that were created during evacuation of human species and left it unfinished. So while they came back after 500 years, this is what they found: the towers captured and reimagined by the squids. So here we go. This is the squid tower. This is a graphical representation where the transportation hub is covered in slime-like substance and almost taken over by the squids. And if you can see, if I zoom in, there is a ship that is flying away, like taking off. There are 8 such different platforms from where the ship can, land and take off. And this is basically used, this was intended to be used by humans for interplanetary transportation. So here is how the tower actually behaves. So this is the breakup. First is, this is the interior structure that actually humans built with their knowledge, and it was very industrial. So they did this much and then flew away with all the left behind things and humans. And when after ages they revisited, they found that it was, covered like in the slimy substance, which was the result of extra powerful squids. And there were also tentacles which were protecting, and these were dynamic tentacles continuously moving and showcasing the power. So the first structure you can see is procedural scripting in Houdini, and that is how it has been created. Here you can see in the elevation there are some can you guys see my mouse cursor? Is it visible?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, these are the platforms that are used for landing of the ships and taking off things. And then again, I took it back to ZBrush and sculpted some organic slime-like surfaces. And then Houdini was really helpful with these tentacles. So I developed these tentacles in Houdini, and all together it was something like this. So these are the cut sections, and you can see how it's all very fluidic, but the inner structure is very industrial. And these are the blown up sections for better representation. So this is how the ship is taking off. And there is a deal between squids and humans that they will give each other something. So whenever a ship comes, squid opens up for them and allows the ship to come in, enter, and go out. So as I said, it's very fluidic and slimy. So things are, with stills, I'm not really able to represent that much, but if it was animation or something, I could have better shown it. But yeah, and this is the structure. So if you want to get an idea of the scale here, you can see humans. And this is how big the whole structure is. And yeah, this is pretty much the blown up section. And then let's get to the render part. So these with the help of Houdini, I was able to create this kind of cinematic renders, I would say, or very water-like structures, like slimy kind of an effect. And yeah, this is pretty much it. Thank you.
Great. The jury can take over. Samuel,
Yeah.
for the presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in really quick. Great presentation. I love the way that you brought us into the project, and I think your ambitions are very clear from this initial image, which I love. I think as you move forward with the project, I would really lean into what seems to be a very natural interest of yours, which is like the cinematic or the scenographic, meaning constructing views for film or for storytelling or for narrative exploration. And so I think what you could do is really lean into that. What I would suggest is, as architects, there's so many different places we can draw inspiration from. So sometimes it's hard to know exactly what to look at, but I think the trajectory that you're looking for, and also I think that the kind of ambition for the project could use some Sid Mead. I don't know if you're familiar with their work, but they did a lot of the conceptual design for Blade Runner and for a lot of other classic Hollywood sci-fi movies. And what I think would be great for you to do is look at how they construct a scene and how they use composition to help frame the architecture, and also how to give it a little bit of a narrative spin. And furthermore, I think what's important is how they highlight the attributes or the objects in the scene that really make it seem sci-fi, or what really make the storytelling of the specific world that he's trying to talk about come through. And so I think that would really help this project sort of synthesize a narrative that's befitting to the really playful and great formal expression that you're going for. So I would look into that. Outside of that, in terms of looking at the technical approach to this, I think you did a great job. One thing I would say, however, is I think as architects, we have a tendency to be trained to have like a overall strategy for everything, meaning if we develop one system of like panels for a facade, then we're trained to essentially wrap the entire building in it. And I see that same tendency being played out here, where you develop a strategy and then it needs to encircle the entire building, and then you develop another strategy and it needs to do the same thing. I think what you could do is play with making a little more asymmetrical and allowing the sort of discreteness of the first layer that you're playing with underneath to dictate how the forms on the exterior are working. Because I think you've just exhibited a lot of really great technical prowess with this. And I think the easiest thing to do is wrap or sort of like envelop everything so that it's a very cohesive language that's easy to tell. But I would encourage you to try to open parts up and give it a little bit more lived in feel, which I think if you do this exact thing where like you take parts or certain formal zones and you remove like the outer shell, and then the next part, maybe you remove some of the discrete parts so that on the interior you have these really beautiful cavities or big atriums of space. I think it would help this whole project have a little bit more distinct character. And I think it would also help your voice come out more as a designer as well, and would have to make those decisions. I also just want to say I love the spaceport. One thing I would look into, however, is, I don't know how far into the future this is going to be, but the exhaust that all spaceships make is pretty severe. So if you're going to include a spaceship, I think it would be, if it's within this century, I think it either needs to be going directly up in the fumes. Maybe there's like a really cool formal tunnel that you build to help funnel the fumes outside of the building so it doesn't hit all of the inhabitants. But if it's not in this century, then maybe maybe that's not even a problem anymore, and we just have really great, clean, burning spaceships. So anyway, side note,
Completely
but
electric.
great project.
So, yeah,
Great job.
thank you so much.
Yeah, when I tackle in from the, I just want to add to Tucker's comments. Congratulations, Salman, for the project. I really like the story a lot. You really think of it really in detail. And the outcome, I also really like the idea that, how should I say it, this artificial tower being kind of molded by natural beings like squids. What I also wanted to see, or what would have been great, was that this slime also kind of goes also inside the building and also changes some interior spaces as well. That not just sitting outside on the as a shell-like thing, but also really shaping some interior spaces as well. Because you're talking about a really big time span. Some of the interior spaces and so on might get kind of, how should I say it, disrupted by molding or this kind of stuff. What happens when some parts are kind of like this post-apocalyptic scenes, like there is molds, there is natural things growing on, not only the slime outside, but also inside. Some of the parts are, how should I say, falling apart, breaking up, and so on. Seeing those kind of stuff would have been also really neat. But this is just some details that you can do from now on if you wish, and in order to enhance the whole project. But yeah, overall, really nice project.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, Salman, awesome project, man. Congratulations. Personally, I really love the whole narrative of this whole thing because it's just so unique, and like I get that you're really, like, you really wanted this whole, I mean, you're like such a fan of like the sci-fi narrative and stuff, and like personally I love sci-fi, and your whole take on this universe and stuff, it's like I mean, for me, almost like the strongest thing for this project is just the whole storytelling vibe of it all. Like just imagining, okay, you have like these other like species or something taking over humans, old transport hubs, and then having like a deal, and like this is such like a synergy, you know, like, and that idea, just the idea of that, a synergy between these different elements and stuff is super sick. And I think what one thing which how you could like push it more, because you have like the whole synergy and stuff in like storytelling, but given, I mean, it's super like difficult because you also took like every technique we learned, I think, and you like did every single one. So like hats off to you like for that, because that's yeah, also not easy to like try and implement every single thing, like different technique into one project. But I think also, I mean, Mümün mentioned it before also, it would go a long way if you try and like have these, because I feel like right now you have like 3 different layers and they're quite separate to each other. But if you kind of push it somehow that they would morph more into each other, or maybe show less. So like if you have your second layer that maybe like shows less of, or like engulfs less of the whole thing, or I'm not sure, there's plenty of different ways you could go about this, but I feel like if you look at the very last image, which is the tentacles, you don't really see much from the very first structure, if that makes sense. And I think if it would just showcase more of the interior structure, or I think it's like a balance of things, you know, like it might be personal preference as well, but that was just one thing which I was thinking of. And Also, if you go back to your very first rendering, like the title page, yeah, this like obviously would like I was telling you also like, yeah, we should do like a ton of like cinematic renders, but obviously we don't have enough time to do a bunch of like cinematic renders and stuff. But these kind, I think especially for a project like this, which is so like sci-fi and fantasy, like these kind of renderings are really which pushes the storytelling the most, in my opinion. So if you go about like trying producing stuff like that, like also more cinematic looks and stuff, and also not even worrying about that much that it showcases your architectural space or whatever, but just more of the whole vibe of the whole atmosphere, because that's something which is really intriguing about the project. You know, it's like a super dystopian or not dystopian, but like a post-apocalyptic vibe. So if you have like renderings with a ton of fog and stuff and lighting, like you can make some super dramatic and really nice looking images. I mean, it's all about world building here, I think, you know, so yeah, but all in all, awesome project, man. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Hey, great project. Also from my side, I can only agree to what the others said. Yeah, amazing. Like it offers a lot of potential to develop further, I think. So you have outlined your world, you have your story, and now, I don't know, you can start asking questions about the world, like how do other structures look like? How does it look on land, in the mountains? And I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for yeah, world building, or like creating different sceneries and different scenarios in which the squids can take over and create like interesting geometries. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. So I'd like to say that I'll be pursuing my master's in fiction and entertainment from SciArc this August, so this fall. And yeah, so I'll be flying to LA soon, and I am kind of preparing myself for that. And I really love my undergraduate thesis research thesis was about science fiction films and architecture, and I'm completely into the fictional architecture and virtual architectures, world building, and definitely I am a big fan of Sid Mid, as you said, and I've studied Blade Runner as well for my research, and I'm super inspired by Blade Runner, Fifth Element, Equilibrium, those films. So I try to, you know, always tell a story whenever I build anything, and that's, I think, what I will be doing for the rest of my life. I mean, for now, that's the plan. So I would love to build, you know, environment for films and games, like more inclined towards films. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Nice to meet you, Taka, prior to joining SciArc.
Great
Thank
job.
you, Somal.
You're gonna love it.
That was awesome. Yeah, all the best with your master, Somal. And yeah, thanks for the comments, guys. So we move on to the next presentation by Masataka Yoshikawa, or Taka in short.
Hi. I'm gonna share the screen. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. You guys still see the screen?
All good.
All good? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You're seeing the presentation there.
We don't see your notes. We only see the presentation.
Okay, good. Okay, so my name is Taka, and this is my project, General Sharon tree. This project is inspired by a tree that's called the General Sharon tree. It is the world's biggest tree measured by volume. That's in National Park in California. The tree is 2,200 years old and 83 meters tall, and it's about 11 meters in diameter at the base. With this project, I'm imagining a post-apocalyptic world, a world after nuclear war, where 95% of the human population died because of the war and radiations from the nuclear bomb. And with this, I'm imagining how human-made structures that's left behind is taken over by nature. This is a diagram and action of the project. This part is the kind of like, so this part is the tree nature part that's taking over, and this is a human-made sort of 2 towers that's left behind, and this is the accent. This is a close-up elevational view of the connection bridge of 2 towers. The image left is a pseudo section. The image on the right is also a pseudo section, but I was trying to like cut twice to show the connection between interior to exterior enclosures. I don't know, there's something like fun about in these like sectional elevations, and like it's kind of fun. Like there's a lot of possibilities, I think. This is a close-up image. In this image, you can see that there are still a few drones flying around, even though they don't serve any purpose anymore, but they recharge using sunlight, and they are automated to continue flying the same route as scheduled by humans before the nuclear war. But as the tree grows and takes over the structure, the tree crashes the drone. So with time, all the drone will be gone. It's kind of what I'm imagining, and there are a few more close-up shots. I felt like there was it was kind of hard to show kind of like with this workflow. I think we were able to produce a lot of like details and things like that, and it was kind of hard to show it was just a kind of like a still image of the renderings. So I attempted to do some animation. And that's a project. Thank you. I just wanted to also say thank you to everyone from the Futury team and all the instructors, especially Andreas for being super patient and being very generous with his time, and kind of like directing me to the direction for the project. So thank you.
Thank you, Taka. That was amazing. Yeah, the floor is open for discussions, guys.
I'm just gonna hop in there. And so, yeah, man, I think you killed it actually, like with the whole like shape language of this thing. I mean, you starting with like the whole theme of it with like a tree, something super organic, and mixing it with like the discrete shape language and stuff. I feel like also I'm doing something that is always like a challenge, because you always have to think of, okay, how does it how does it not look like 2 separate things, you know, like you try and morph it mostly, or you have like these moments where it morphs. And I think you nailed it, man, because it really has I mean, personally, just like the whole shape language of it, I really like, because you have a super organic like the tree, like super organic shapes, but at the same time you have those like those perforated, like the triangular things, which are made. And I think that works really well, as it's just like another controlled system in an organic system, that makes sense. And just by the fact of having that already makes it easier for the viewer to like see the whole thing as one, because I mean, I think that's what makes it work, because you have a very controlled system underneath, and your organic but not so organic like thing on top, because it has the mixture. And I think that's what really makes it a very strong shape language. So congrats. That, yeah, I think you killed it.
Thank you.
Yeah, to branch off of that, I think this is a really great project, and I commend you on being very brave in the form that you're attempting. I think it's always difficult to rationalize, you know, some of the crazy forms that sometimes we get as a result of these different workflows, but I can see that you've embraced that, and that you've even allowed it to continue to form itself in really amazing ways. So I just want to commend you on the courageousness it took to allow this, or to work through this sort of form. And I really like, usually it's hard for a project to do justice when they say, oh, I'm using wood as part of my project. Usually it's really derivative, or it somehow goes back to like the 20th century way that we normally see wood as planking or as siding. But what I think you've done here is really great, is you've allowed this project to exist almost as a model, not as a fully realized building, but as just like a study model that we would build in school. And the way that you're rendering it, even at the scale that you are, and the way that you're using the natural aspect, or camera lens length that comes with a renderer to make it even look smaller than a building, but more like a model, is helping with that as well. But what it's allowing you to do, I think, is be much more playful with this, and allow the sort of fun craftiness that comes out of not necessarily just working with wood, but that can come out of the sort of nitty-gritty post rationalization of a project after you get it out of Houdini or another software. And I can see that you're paying a lot of attention to that, which I want to commend you on. And I think if you can hold that through that sort of instinct or rationality that you have through any software that you work with, whether it's AutoCAD or whether it's Houdini or another, I think you'll always inevitably end up with pretty great softwares on the other end. So, or projects on the other end. So great job. I really, really love this project. And I think I commend you on the playfulness and the whimsical nature of this. So great job.
Thank you. It was super fun.
Hey. Yeah, thank you. Great project. So nice, the outcome. It was wonderful to like join the way and to see each week how it developed. Yeah, I think you nailed it in the end. Amazing.
Yay. Thank you.
Yeah, at last, if I may also add something, I really, as others said, the aesthetics looks really interesting and also really nice. And you did a really great job bringing these two, how should I say it, these two very contradicted aesthetics into a one system. And I think they complement each other very well. Especially there were some views where in animation, it looked really, really dope. So I also want to congratulate you for the outcome.
Thank you.
Amazing work, Taka. And I was just going to say, or I wrote in chat that you could be flipping the slides while the discussions were happening as well. You have your title slide.
Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. Yes.
It was just super fun. I think I think also it's kind of like how you have it set up. It's kind of like in a way that, you know, it's like kind of low pressure, like, you know, you could just kind of like have fun with it. And a lot of those things I just used like what we developed through the workshop, through, you know, from Nate's things to Mümün's things and Andreas things, and then just combine and just apply the things. And it was super fun. And thank you so much for Bamsi and Alex and everyone at the Future for organizing things in a way that you did. That's super great.
Thank you so much, Taka. It's our pleasure to see work like this. Thank you. And thanks for the comments. Guys, so we move to the next presentation. It's by Siddharth and Prashant. Unfortunately, Prashant could not join us today due to an emergency, but yes, Sid will be presenting the project.
Hey guys, my name is Siddharthan, and I'll be like showing my project now. So yeah, so our project name is inspired by the famous Black Panthers location called Wakanda, and I've tried to like call it Wakambe because of the African touch we want. I mean, it is influenced by a lot of African culture and other things. So the entire structure and the ideologies which we tried to use, and whatever topic we were given is to deal with a power plant, and we sort of like modified and have taken it to like a reactor scale. Like it's just like like vibranium is being the main source of energy to run the entire city, or even like survive on this particular civilization. And moreover, this tower itself has like many different aspects. Like we had like a lot of interesting takeaways while we were trying to design it firstly, and we sort of took like different ideologies firstly. So my ideologies started like with these sketches. I had some few ideas on how we could go about in starting to like do these different parts, and those parts in turn form into like a huge structure. So we started concentrating on the face of the Black Panther and how that entire whatever tower, which also is the power source, which also starts to like, it also becomes like an important place, like the citadel for the civilization, which is also worshipped in the form of like a deity. And then that all of the people of Wakanda could like assemble there, and that could be like the birthplace of this entire civilization. You could even call it like the like how you have like Jerusalem being like the foundation for all of these religions. Like we tried to sort of create that kind. We were sort of going for that kind of a narrative, but with different elements. Like you have your spears and other things, which have like the vibranium elements in these particular articulations, if you could see in these sketches. Yeah, for now. And then we start to go into like the structure. Now the structure is like a combination of like using African handicrafts and other things, and a few mech structures to like infuse the fact that Wakanda had like an influence with the alien civilization, or you could call the Chitauris and whatever. And then they started to like engulf into the structure. So it's basically like a tiki version of whatever like stone built, and it would have like some kind of an energy source already. And we sort of like explored with like some mechanical kit bashes and a few hard surfacings to show the core and how a person could like transform into it. We didn't want to make it like a normal skyscraper with like different floors. We just wanted to like create like a structure which emphasizes on like the power and just like it's like an ultimate power source at the end of the day. And there could be like these dishes which also like harnesses that particular vibranium just being like pulled from the ground. I would be showing you a few more graphics on how it's being like done. And then we have like the power source core, which is like just like a small, it's like this small structure within it, which is enclosing. It's trying to, the thing is vibranium is so like, according to the fictional stories, like vibranium is so powerful that it might like shatter, or it might shatter another object or other things. So we have tried to like emulate that kind of feeling, like it's being protected by another other layer of armor. And now these are like the reactor details and a few more elements on how we are trying to preserve this entire core, or whatever the power source it is. And then we have like a few more details on how the core, I mean, the thing is, our entire tower itself is like inspired by these African cultures, and then it starts to become a little bit Gothic in nature, like having like these different arches and a few more kit bashings. Like if I can zoom in a little bit, okay, just a minute. Yeah, just want to. So if I can zoom in a bit, you could find these articulations. Now, these articulations are like the sacred part of like how these energy sources are being like absorbed, and then it's like again taken, and it's taken back into the core. And then you have like a few more mech details in these parts as well. And like you have like these elements like these pipes and other kit bashes. We even have like a bunch of spears also, which kind of symbolizes like the ancestors of that particular place have fought to like keep the place, and they're like, you know, there's like an importance where like the ancestor history has so much value that we have used those weapons to like create those power source as well. So that there are like so many ways to like we had like a lot of takeaways on it. And there is like the headgear details, which again is like, so the thing is we've tried to like use the entire structure of the Black Panther's headgear to make the entire core fit into it, and then it's being formed into a structure. So basically it's like the head and the suits inspirations to create all of this, and it was all like articulated in ZBrush, and we used like a bunch of different polygonal modeling softwares to get the kit bashes ready, and we used Cinema 4D to like get it all in one place, and I rendered it on Corona to have this give like a very depth to it. So these are like our visuals on how this tower would look in a dystopian environment. Like these are like the vibranium place, and this is like the base for it, and this is the structure. The thing is, we don't have like so many floors like a skyscraper. It's just like a one place to like go to the core, and it's like the ultimate source of power. Like someone could like obtain power from that place. And now there is, you can see like there are like a bunch of things. So the thing is, it's being infused by culture, and also there's like tech involved into it, and all of this is being infused within a structure itself. So it's like a combination of like African / text sort of what do you say? We were going for that kind of articulation as well, and those technicalities too. And yeah, I added some purple neons to show that there is like power being generated and it's being taken to the top. And this is like the close-up shots on how we started to, how this entire is being affected in the core stuff and other things, and these articulations start to like take form into it. And these are like the top parts of our structure, and again to show those particular details and other things, and a few more images on how it is. And this is like the interior sections on how the core and how one could like transport himself. It's like a machine as well at the same time. So like there are like a lot of ideas floating around while we're trying to design this. So, and then this is like the part where like the human is approaching the core, and you know, like they're trying to find the power. And this is like the interior section of it, and some cut sections. And our model is so complicated, like the cutaways haven't come out that well, but I'm trying to like justify it with other renders as well. So we didn't have like, I mean, we didn't know like animation, but I mean, we would have loved to try it out on another time as well. But yeah, this is how we achieved, and we have like few occlusion renders. I have like a few parts of like the visualizations I do have. This could be like the other kind of sectional variations. And then I had like a bunch of, then this could be like the future when the entire civilization is being embraced by humans, and they would have like develop facades on it, like a building and stuff, and start to take shape into it. Yeah, so I think that's all for I have to show. We have to show from it.
Great presentation. Thank you so much, Sid.
Yeah, I know I haven't done much, but I tried. So.
No worries.
I don't mind starting off. I really appreciate the ambition of the project, and I also really appreciate how I can see there. This isn't just in student work, any creator can claim to sort of draw inspiration from a certain precedent or from a certain movie or whatnot. And more times than not, usually that connection is not easily seen. Sometimes that's good. Most of the times it just means that you think you're copying something or trying to mimic something, but it's not really doing it justice. I think what you're doing really successfully is you're translating a lot of the techniques that you're seeing in other works or other creators' world building and interpreting it in your own way, in a really fantastic way. I think what's fascinating is, as I was hearing you call out certain formal characteristics or certain aesthetic tendencies of Black Panther and of the sci-fi sort of genre of Black Panther in general, I could see how you were directly trying to implement or take those and put them into your work. And I think you're doing quite successfully. What I would say is, I think that you have the ability, with also the way that you're sort of bringing this through multiple different softwares at once, is to expand the influence just a little bit, so that you can go perhaps a little bit beyond Black Panther and start looking at a way that I usually do this is, if I find myself sort of cornered with only one inspiration and it's hard for myself to get out of that, what I usually do is I'll just do some research on others, on those of who worked on that film or on that project, and look at what else they've done and expand that way. And one way you could do this is, there's a designer, Yulia Korner, who actually 3D printed the crown in Black Panther. And if you wanted to look at her work and see how she's taking very similar aesthetic approaches and forms and using it in vastly different architectural applications, and start playing this gymnastics game with the forms that you're working on, I think it would give the aesthetics that you're developing and the forms that you're developing a lot of power, because you're able to filter them through different outlets and different channels. So this is really just to encourage you to keep going. And I can see your versatility in software. And I would also encourage that to, as much as you can, just continue to filter this through as many softwares as you can to sort of, if anything, change the way that you think all software operates, and also so you can break workflows and develop your own. So great job, keep it up. Yeah, and keep going. Great job.
Thank you, Taka. Thank you.
If I can add to that, congratulations, Sid. Very nice work. And I also really appreciate your research behind the whole design. But as Taka said, sometimes it's also really nice to really bring other references as well into the design process. And sometimes if you are stuck into one reference, just try to, it doesn't have to be the same context, but it can also, it can lead to you to a more enhanced ways if you just try to, just don't limit yourself with one, but try to open up yourself or your design workflow to other references as well. And in African culture, there are lots of very different styles and also very different design aesthetics. From north to south, there are many different cultural or ethnical references that you may find. And just why, if you want to develop this project further, I would recommend you just look into African culture or Africa alone. The northern pieces, like from Morocco to Egypt, there are many different nice references for you as well that you can bring into this project as well.
Yeah. Look into it. Thank you, Mümün.
Even in Wakanda, there are many different colonies,
It's
right?
so hard to
Or I mean, the
cover all of
clans, or
Yeah.
I don't know whatever they call them.
Yeah.
And even they have many different, I should say, architectural design going on, or even fashion is very different from one to another.
Try to inspire like with fashion and then get it into like a definite structure. That was the plan, but it was so vast that I had to like focus on like one thing and then get it right. So that, like as you said, I mean, it's not the complete exploration, so need to work on it more.
Yeah, and definitely. Just try to be more open to more things. Just don't limit to your one clan only in Wakanda.
Yeah. I'm not trying to like, but yeah, I'll take.
But anyway, this is a really nice project, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mümün.
Yeah, I'm gonna bridge off Mümün if that's okay. And yeah, Sid, I really like this project. I think you guys did an amazing job with this. Like the whole depth of it all is so, like, I really appreciate it's just like there's like, I feel like there's like a lot of passion behind it. And also from the beginning, you guys really knew like that, yeah, this is like what we want to do. And there was like no, and I get what also the other, like for saying with, like with open, which is definitely important to be open to other references as well, as like it's also what Mümün said with like in African culture, so many different like things. If you even just look at like not only like the Black Panther mask, but just like masks in African culture, there's so many different really interesting things which you can do. But at the end of the day, that's your decision, it's your project. Like if you want to be on like have it set in this universe, and that's, of course you can do it, like that's also sick. But what I wanted to say also with like what I really like about this whole design as well, like how you describe it, like saying, okay, it's a power plant with vibranium, it's super like technological, it's they get like this it's like an energy source basically, but at the same time it's like also a very religious structure, like a citadel or something. And I feel like it really translates, like what you're saying translates completely into like the structure. If I look at it, it really looks like a very important structure in this society, and it's the most important structure, I guess. Like you have their energy source, and it's a religious structure as well. I think also like just the whole, like the details and thought you put into it, like it really came together really nicely, I think, like with the it's not like too noisy as well, because that's also something we were always talking about, like it could be very easily like get really noisy and stuff. And I think it's really nicely balanced as well. Like it has that, it's not like, it doesn't overwhelm you too much, like, but at the same time it's very intricate, and it's all very thought out, like you think, I wanted to put a pattern here, and I want to, and it's just very, it's done with finesse, if that makes sense, yeah. So I really appreciate that, and you guys killed it, I think. One thing also which I want to add, like this is getting really into the details now, but I want to add this anyway. If you go back to some of the images with like the interior shots of like, yeah, those like, I mean, these are always shots like which everyone appreciates, I think, because you can like really you show how like just a little more like close-ups and stuff. But I think how you could push these images more is, this is getting very like technical here, but I think just by like you know, we looked at those images of like reactors and stuff, like nuclear reactors, just adding something like that so subtle, like just like fog and stuff inside, like would really push this whole thing of it being like, I don't know, like it's like super energy like thing, you know what I mean? Like just having subtle things like that would go a long way for images like this, I think. Especially,
I think our scale started like the way we started the scale, and we didn't like think on that part. That's why a few of our details went a little crazy. But other than the fact that like the improvisation worked well, I would say.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like all in all, it's amazing, man. These are just very small like details, I think, which would help like the renderings. You know, if you're showing interior of like a mech piece, like show some steam and stuff, and put fog and stuff. You know, like that just makes the whole image a lot more intriguing. You know, and you can see like there's a lot of like stuff going on here. Like even on this image, if you just add fog on top of it, that will go a long way, I think. But yeah, all in all, amazing job, guys. Like, congrats.
Thank you, Nate. Thanks for your support and your patience.
Hey, yeah, also from my side, great job. Crazy how much detail and variation you have in it. Yeah, it's amazing. I could really imagine them like in high quality renders and like imagine the world around them. Yeah, I would love to see it actually.
Yeah, we wanted to expand it a bit more, but we're just running out of like details to work with. But yeah, I think
also it was super short. Yeah,
it's like one half I've done, and there's like another half which is like remaining. So many things to be like thought about. Also, the scale was like an important factor to like control all this. But yeah, I think we can make more.
Great.
Amazing. Yeah.
Awesome work, Sid.
Yeah, and
awesome world building.
Lastly, I thank all of the instructors and once again Eric to like guide us through this entire thing. And also amazing work, guys, like participants. You guys killed it. Just want to like say it. So yeah, thank you so much.
Nice. Great. Thanks, Sid. We move on to the next presentation. It's by Andreas Kopriva-Lernes.
Oh, hi. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
you're pretty audible, right, cool. Andreas. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I'll just share the screen. Give me one moment. Is that okay? Can everybody see it? Yeah, I can see it in my screen as well. All right. So first of all, I'd like to congratulate everyone else who's presented so far. It's been really awesome stuff, especially the Black Panther Tower. As a Marvel fan, I appreciated that.
Thank you.
And now onto this project. Basically, this is what I've called the KRPT Tower, which is a bit of a wordplay. I mean, for corrupt, but we'll just move past that. And it's a continuation of a series of towers that I've essentially done for the entirety of the workshop. So I'll just briefly go through those because I know those are not the subject of the presentation. So this was the first one, moving on to the second one, moving on to a third one, and then finally arriving at this one. Now, I wanted essentially for this to function as a sort of continuation, an aesthetic continuation of this essential juxtaposition between more traditionally structural elements more man-made elements, and these more alien morphologies provided in this particular case by fractal modules. So with each successive tower, I sort of try to approach that mentality whilst finally concluding this small, let's say, morphological exploration with this one here. So I'm going to walk through its overall design now based on these more linear drawings. I opted essentially to have the peripheral structure, so the left and rightmost structures. Before I continue, this is obviously meant to be some sort of power generating or power extraction type of structure. But I essentially wanted the peripheral structure to be the more man-made or the more, let's say, linear frame construction, you know, and I wanted the power structure to be more this this alien morphology. So if we get this isometric breakdown view, you can clearly see that the peripheral structures follow a more traditional or more, say, algorithmically derived approach, whilst the internal structure is this more flowing lines and, to me at least, more alien morphology. So here we can see a more thorough breakdown of this peripheral structure. So I opted to combine these linear scaffolding structures with again, like the generated slabs and staircases and so on, which would form the internal navigation and traversal through the tower. And these come into contrast with this more alien core, which this was essentially generated through using a series of different fractal forms, which were very clearly manipulated and distorted and art directed to follow something that I deemed to be aesthetically pleasing, to me at least. So I'll just break that down and go now to more rendered views. Here we can see one side of the structure, and this is the rear part of the structure. And I did want there to be this sort of, the way I described it is like I wanted the dependency or the interaction between the organic core and the man-made structure to be a sort of almost parasitic or codependent type of relationship, which may have began as a more exploitative thing, but over, say, a number of years ended up being a more enmeshed coexistence. And that's why, and I hope it's more evident as I go through these, you can sort of see how the internal structure, which is clearly more alien-like, ends up affecting and bleeding through to affect the peripheral structures as well. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I mean, again, like narratively speaking, these do fit into a more alien world building type of exercise that I've been going through for a number of years. But that's still quite heavily under production. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
I don't mind
Thanks,
starting
Andreas.
off again. I want to commend you on just a really brilliant, courageous exploration. I really think you're developing a sensibility that's really unique and that's really quite stunning and surreal in all the good ways. So I love this. I think given that this is a technical workshop, and I could go on and on about how I like this, I'll give you some technical advice. I don't know what diversity of software you know, but I think your project could definitely be brought into any kind of renderer software, and you could consider, you keep bringing up these issues of like the man-made versus natural, or like something that's biophilic, and I think you could use like Cinema 4D with Octane or Blender perhaps to start populating this with organic life. Start bringing in, and maybe it's not even earthly organic life, maybe it's like planet TT76 or whatever's life forms that you're populating it with. But I think it would be a really interesting way for you to age this, because I also like you've mentioned a lot in your presentation that you're trying to give this a sort of like lived in feel, or a feel that it's been there for a long time. And I think that it would be really interesting for you to incorporate those ways of rendering out plant life or animated parasitical objects that could latch onto it. I think it would be a fun way for this to move also into a really fun narrative world, because I think you've developed, and I can tell that you've developed a really strong vocabulary of forms that you like and that you're developing. And I think what always makes projects really strong is when there's just as equally a strong sort of back narrative that you can see infused in here. And so I can tell you're a whiz with every formal workflow that you could get. So I think if you bring it into any of these cinematic softwares and you start trying to world build with it, it would be amazing. I mean, I would love to see even just a storyboard of like a technician's work day on this thing. It would be so cool. So awesome. So anyway, amazing job. Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Andreas, this is super sick, man. Like, I just want to say, I really like the way how you rendered everything as well, because it all has a very cinematic look, and I think that's appreciated by everyone. Also, I really enjoy yeah, images like this as well. It's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of it feels like not dirty, but like kind of it's kind of you're not too worried about having it completely sharp here, and that you have some depth of field. It's just very nicely rendered, and so fitting, I think, for this kind of like project, or like some of these images. I'm imagining like someone who's like there shouldn't be there, is like taking photography, taking pictures of this thing, how that's like how some of the images portray, I think, like the ones which look like they're made like from a vintage camera or something. There's like some guy with a shitty camera is like hiding here and it's like taking pictures of this mega structure. But so yeah, I'm a really big fan of the renderings. Also, just like the whole vibe of this thing is it's like so menacing. And if you like back, I think it was like the elevations, or I think it was the elevations or the section or something. It just has a very like altar look to it in my mind. Like it's so which is a very, yeah, it's super intriguing, man. Like really beautiful shapes as well, especially the alien form. I really like that. I mean, I'm a big fan of like Giga as well. So like things like this kind of like amount of detail, and the whole way you approach this as well, to like get these fractal forms and then like array them and twist them and morph them. I think it's a very nice very, I mean, a really smart way as well, like to achieve these kinds of forms. And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, like for like these aesthetic alien forms, definitely killed it with this one. Yeah, awesome, dude. Congrats.
Thank you very much. Some dude with a Helios 45, 44 M2 lens, yeah?
Yeah. The best
Yeah.
lens, man.
Yep.
Andreas and Mümün, would you like to add something?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know, not much to add. It's such a great project. Like the details, it's crazy. Like I'm getting jealous of how you're making those. Yeah, congrats. I don't know, not much to add. It's really a great project.
And at the end, if I
oh,
also,
sorry, Mümün.
oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
Just go ahead. All right. So I also really always liked the way you present your final pieces. I totally agree with Nathaniel. It doesn't look so, how should I say, perfectly clean. And those imperfections of images actually give some sort of a really nice look to it, because humans, or we like imperfections, even though we don't say it out loud, but we like imperfections, and you kind of have your own way to kind of bring those imperfections into your presentation of the projects, and I really enjoy that. And also, if you stay in this image, I really like how these different kind of shapes kind of interact with each other. And the only thing that I might want to add is the thing. I think I can comment here. No, I can't. But the golden shaped shell, I think the only thing that I want to say is that it would have been nice that those shells also kind of interacted the same way like the other shapes did. But it's like, I should say, it's just my opinion. But at the end of the day, congratulations for the nice project, man. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andreas. It's a really wonderful project, really wonderful composition. And thank you for the jury for the amazing comments. With that being said, we have one more presentation, which will be the last one for today. And it is from Sharon Hussaini. Sharon, you can share your screen, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, cool. Let me share my screen. 1 minute. Sorry, I cannot share. 1 minute. Up.
Just a second, please.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think you've logged in from 2 devices.
Yeah, because I'm talking from my phone and computer in front.
Cool. Yeah.
But if anything, now is okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. We see your desktop. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is like some rendering from my presentation, like from my project. Honestly talking, like I didn't have much time working on it, and I tried my best with the kind of material and tools that I had, because my computer totally ran out with all the software that I had to download. But I tried to compose something like, basically I worked with Nathaniel, and I went from like a conceptual art from Japan, like which called like ukiyo, it's like a Japanese art which flourished from 17th century and emphasized like nature scene. I think this painting is very famous, like the wave of Kanagawa. And basically this term ukiyo translates as a picture of the floating world. And since I was working on the sparking station movement, and I had to emphasize the movement over the whole project. So I was thinking, okay, that basically I went from that idea, and obviously I tried to develop that. So at the end of the structure, I tried to create like a whole structure which is composed with like 3 different scenes. Like we will have like a wave as a base, which is somehow growing through different languages or like composition. And somehow I wanted to create like a program and insert like a program into it. So in the end, it gives this through like having like a very central tower core, which is totally free and which is kind of a landmark for the whole project. So if I have to take the diagram, I can show you a bit more about the composition. So here we can see somehow the platform of interaction, and my wave is kind of a pavilion like for a community hangout, so we can have like some exhibition over displays or like interaction platform, as I mentioned. And then eventually we have a structure for car reception, obviously, because it's like a futuristic vision of car flying around. And yeah, so a bit like some Japanese also movies that I also mentioned to Nathaniel. So anyway, after we have this tower central core, which is kind of a landmark and a connection, a vertical connection from the whole over program. And eventually I was thinking to add this hologram floating all around. So it emphasized the landmark intention that I had. So just to repeat a bit, like just about the program, interactive platform, pavilion exhibition, car parking, landmark. And yeah, this is some view like about the project without any kind of texture. And yeah, so basically this is just some elevation. And here we get a bit more into like the detail and how I wanted to destructure the whole scenario. Here it's like the main one, the interactive one. And yeah, so basically this is what I have to say about my project. Hello.
Hey, yeah, I don't mind starting again. I can appreciate the multifaceted approach that you've taken. I also appreciate this is one of the hardest things about being a designer, to be quite blunt, nowadays, is that it seems like every single day, whatever you learned the previous day, or every single day, whatever tech you bought the previous day becomes obsolete. And I mean, this is just how, maybe I'm just saying how I feel, but it always feels as if I'm trying to play catch up with the new tech that's coming out, the new software that's coming out, and it's really hard to keep up, to the point where like my setup can only do certain things and I'm not able to do everything. And a way that you can think through these issues in the future, and I'm only mentioning this because you started your presentation by mentioning that you were having hardware difficulties, which I can totally empathize with, is whenever you run into an issue, or whenever you have like writer's block or designer's block, try to think about the problem and how you're addressing it technically, and then try to think about how you could address it conceptually. And if you just shift your mind into thinking about how you could do it conceptually different as opposed to technically different, you'll be able to sidestep into different software or find a different way that you could solve the issue, as opposed to sort of getting stuck in this technical loop, this technical problem loop that I find myself in. So what I will say, however, I'm only mentioning that because I think that you've actually done that in a pretty good way, that you've been able to still output pretty tantalizing images in the end, despite the limitations, which I want to commend you on. Moving forward, what I would suggest is, again, given the sort of limits of our technical ability, I understand that what I'm going to suggest might be very complex and difficult, but I would really love to see how all of these separate elements could have a little bit more dialogue with one another. Since we're using procedural tools, you can actually you can script or find ways for encoding behaviors into these different layers or different forms that you're creating, so that when they come close into one another's proximity, their behavior changes or they react to one another a little bit more. And I am only mentioning that because I love the sensibility that you're getting out of this, and I love the different layers of articulation that you're exploring, because they're not necessarily what I would think of in the first place mixing together. And because of that, you're getting a really great mix of elements in a successful way. And I think to push that forward and to make it a little bit more cohesive and a little bit more rationalized is to start having these different elements respond to one another. Maybe it's not always like they're friends. Maybe whenever a floor plate hits one of these really cool tendrils that you had mentioned might be not real, that they could be like projections or whatnot, but I think it would lend itself to making a project that has elements that are acting much more discreetly, and that they're not trying to overpower one another, and they're reacting to one another. So anyway, I'm only mentioning that because I think, despite everything that you said was a limitation, you've done a lot of great work.
Thank you.
And I think you should definitely take what you've learned and developed and keep pushing it forward. So great job. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Sharon, congratulations on your project.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
I think, I mean, I totally agree also what Tucker said. Like, it's like the thing is like how you have, because it's so difficult, I think, with this part. My first off, with the limitations, it's always like a struggle. I think everyone can, like everyone has been there and felt that before, and it's super frustrating. But I think regardless of that, you still manage to do something really cool, especially like being like brave enough, as to say, or like to really want to fit in these different programs of like, okay, like cultural and then something with parking, and like, I mean, and all like these different programs is always a challenge, I think, to fit in conceptually, and also in your shape language and design as well. But what I think, just by, there could be like some little things which you could do to make it fit, or just visually fit a bit more, in my opinion. Like, because if you have a very controlled system in the middle, like the grid for the cars and stuff, if you'd have a grid system which would kind of overlap into like the wave system, and like the top part of your wave also is a more controlled grid. This is just one approach of many, I think, which you can do. But these are the kind of things, I think, which would make, I'm quoting Taka, what he said earlier, that everything seems to be a bit trying to overpower each other, you know? because it's very strong and very different shape language. And that's something I think which would go a long way to just like morph everything together, you know. Also, I really love the idea of like the hologram thing, like which is rotating around the whole structure.
Yeah.
I really like that idea. Yeah, maybe if there's time or if you're motivated enough, like to actually like Photoshop so like advertisement on that or something like that, that could probably be sick as well. Like and that could be, I'm just thinking of like like a rendering like setting you could have, you know, of if you'd actually have images like photoshopped onto it and like an emissive material, it could maybe also have it like illuminate your whole project in a different way. If that were to be like holograms and stuff, could be interesting. But all in all,
Yeah.
congratulations. Yeah, super cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I also want to congratulate you for the project. And I think we all experienced those kind of limitations, but as we all learned during the educational years at the university and so on, we all dealt with it. So it's always good to make your computer crash because you know your limitations and you can adapt to those.
Yeah,
So,
actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, please carry on.
No, just you can answer.
No, I was saying like actually that workshop made me change my computers 2 days ago, so I'm quite happy for that. I'm very, very glad that I had to change. So yeah, please carry on.
Yeah, it was always like, how should I say it, we as architects, we always have to be adaptive to our environments, because the main important goal for us is to create a certain project, and the project should be the centerpiece. How we use the tools and how we adapt the tools to the project is more important than what softwares to use. Sometimes something works much easier or better than other softwares, and you just have to see the softwares as tools. And during your design process of certain project, you will learn with time to kind of not only design the project, but also the workflow itself as well. And through crashing or through bringing your computer to the limit, you will know when to stop and when to switch tools and how to switch tools and so on. And with this, you can just kind of start to also not only plan the project itself, but also plan the workflow as well. But this is something that we all dealt with or still dealing with. And I always, for me personally, I have got a motto every time when I get a new PC or laptop. My main or first goal is to crash it. And so I just drive crazy with something and try to know what my limitations are.
To check the limits, yeah, that's true.
But yeah, overall, you still managed to present us a project today, which is a really nice one also. So congratulations about that as well. So nice.
Thank you so much.
Great. So I guess that is all, guys. Congratulations again, Sharon, for the presentation and also your new laptop.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of the presentation, guys. And yeah, it was almost 2 hours, I guess. That's super nice. And I think everyone has some incredible points, presentations, and your instructors and Tucker have given you really interesting feedback, interesting points, interesting threads that you could actually take and propel your project forward. There's so much you could explore. Treat this as like a step one. You've developed some sort of a prototype through the series of workshops we've had over the past weekends. You can really expand more, and you can really push into making it into a much more fleshed out project as well. There's so much potential for most of the things that you guys have shown us today. And if you are planning on developing the project further, and if you are making some more additions, we would love to see it, and just keep letting us know, and we would love to see the progress. I'm sure the instructors as well. And thank you once again for everybody for sticking around, being with us for all this while, and developing these. And special thanks to Tucker to show up in such a short notice. And it's 6 a.m. for him when he started the presentation with us today. And yeah, we disturbed his sleep schedule. Yeah.
Not
Awesome.
at all. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So with that being said, guys, let's take a group selfie. It would be super nice if you can turn on your cameras, and we can take, well, we are all the last men standing in this workshop, last men and women, of course. Loki is doing his magic. So yes, guys, yet again, this is not a goodbye, and we would love to see you again. And we've been seeing you for quite a while now in all our workshops, courses, and studios. And it's with all your support that Futurely is growing so far. And we've been active for the past 2 years and still keep continuously growing. And thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for putting together this amazing work that you guys have shown us today. And the instructors, Nate, Mümün, and Andreas, they've done some incredible work with you guys, and really pushed the limits of what's possible in such a short frame. And most of you have worked on this solo, and we really appreciate the amount of work that's been produced within a week time. It's really incredible. And yeah, with that being said, we really are thankful for Tucker as well. Tucker, thank you so much for joining us today yet again, and sticking around, sharing your feedback. Really appreciate it. That's it, guys. That's it from my end. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Next time.
Awesome.
Bye.
That was a really beautiful ending, honestly.
Sorry?
I just said that was very beautiful ending.
Yeah, finally.
Thank you, Taka. I'm gonna be in tears soon.
Yeah, man, like the ending of this workshop has been so heartwarming. I feel it's super nice.
Yeah, finally. I think we'll clip this in the end.
Yeah, I actually was watching for Eric for not turning on his camera, and then I stopped recording. Great, guys. Then let's see each other again pretty
Happy
soon.
weekend, guys.
Yeah.
The next week.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for everything.
Thank you so much, Mümün. Thank you, Andreas.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an amazing experience.
Thanks, Nate.
And yeah, I think also for the students, like if there's any questions, they can always like reach out. Yeah, I mean, my DMs are open if like if you want to discuss more or anything. Yeah.
You guys have
same
heard it.
Here. Same here. If you find something cheeky in my workflows, just
All Mümün out.
Awesome. So you guys know that your instructors are always open for you, and they would love it if you can keep asking questions and keep challenging them with interesting ideas too. Awesome.
Yeah, and don't worry about being clingy or something. It's nothing important for us. If someone asks us a question, we learn also, especially if it's complex enough where we have to think about it as well. It's also challenge. This will also be a challenge for us, and challenges are good.
Wonderful. There it is. Mümün said it.
Yeah, I said it.
Yeah. The hard truth
Challenge
is broken.
accepted. Challenge accepted.
And I might visit Mümün directly. It's just he's just 2 hours away from me.
Oh my God.
I think,
Recording.
I think sometimes that's how you guys stumble upon content also, like when we give a new challenge and suddenly like someone comes up with the entire content ready. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yes, it.
Alex just saying we have it all
It's
on
all-
record. Mümün said
Oh,
it.
I messed it up. Oh my God. Sorry, Mümün. I'm Mümün's brother. Yeah, cool.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Awesome, guys.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest
Bye,
of your
everyone.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.